Things are getting wild as in the press conference that was supposed to be about Austin Matthews and John Tavares, Mitch Marner revealed his future plans in Toronto and gave some insight into what Brad Treliving's plans will be this offseason regarding trading the Stars. So to break that down in this episode and discuss what it can mean going forward as the season approaches and things remain at a standstill up until this point. Marner gave some very valuable insight on that, and some of what he had to say was a little bit surprising. Stay tuned for all that in this episode. But before we get into all that, we have a quick message from our sponsor, Fume. Are you trying to kick a bad habit to the curb? If so, you need to check out Fume. Have you heard that the flavored air category is quickly becoming the leading alternative to vaping and smoking? It's a whole new movement towards better habits led by the sponsor of today's video, Fume. Fume has a lot of delicious flavors to choose from crisp mint to cinnamon hearts. They have a flavor just for you. And with flavored air, you can satisfy your oral fixation through a passive diffusion system that utilizes no electronics, no vapor, and no combustion. And Fume has served over 300,000 customers, and you can be their next success story.
For a limited time, use our code DIGEST to get your free topper. It's the perfect accessory for your Fume device. Slip it onto the mouthpiece for a softer, warmer feel. It's great for those who love to fidget, and it's reusable. Head to tryfume.com. That's tryfum.com and use code DIGEST or scan the QR code on the screen right now to get your free Fume topper when you order your Journey pack today.
And thank you to Fume for sponsoring this one. Make sure to check them out. It was overshadowed a little bit in the press conference that was about, of course, John Tavares and Austin Matthews, and Matthews getting the captain. Mitch Marner spoke out a little bit, and he didn't have a lot to say, but you can read between the lines a little bit, and it seems like, according to what he has to say, in all likelihood, he is going to remain a Leaf for this season. He almost put to bed some of the rumors, specifically regarding his him leaving Toronto and all those things. The first time he spoke in a while, and he had a lot of things to say. So, at first glance, Mitch Marner's future with the Leafs, I'm not going to speak in that today. I'm very fortunate to be in Toronto. And he went on to say some other things. So, on his Leafs future, I'm just going to say I love being here. He said he loves being here. He said today's about these two amazing people beside me, and that's what I'm going to speak on. He was asked about his future with the Leafs at the announcement, and of course now is not the time for the conversation, meaning a few different things. And Darius, I'll let you get into it. So obviously he didn't reveal fully, hey, I'm staying in Toronto, but you watch the press conference, you see what he had to say after the fact, pair with some things he said recently, and it just seems like in all likelihood, and Brad Treliving spoke out a little bit, it seems like in all likelihood he is going to remain a Toronto Maple Leaf for this upcoming year.
Yeah, and to start, I mean, the press conference wasn't about him, so I don't know what everyone thought he was going to say, because I thought that was a pretty decent answer for the day, because it was about Austin Matthews and John Tavares, but he did give a little bit of insight, obviously, and I didn't know what else he was going to say besides, I love Toronto and I want to be here, because it looks like to me that he's going to be a Toronto Maple Leaf this season, right, to finish out his contract. I don't see him being moved at this point. It's going to be very difficult with all the salary, and there's no way this team trades him in season. That makes no sense, because they're going to be gunning for a Stanley Cup. That's the ultimate goal of this team, and I think they're going to be better than last year in terms of regular season success as well. So it's going to be interesting to watch, and I think if you read between the lines a little bit, I think things are going to get a little hairy this season. I think it's going to be a bit of a distraction during the season, the contract negotiations and what comes out and what doesn't, right? I think that's going to be interesting to watch too, or what's, put out into the media, let's say, and maybe perhaps fake, right? We all have to watch out for that throughout the year. So I think it's going to be interesting to watch, but I think if you're the Leafs, I think they're going to try and extend this player. I really do. I just don't know personally if that's the right move. I wonder if they should have moved off this player last off season, but we are here now. We can't change the past, right? But I do think they're going to try to extend them. I just wonder if, what the money looks like and if he'll end up walking if he doesn't get exactly what he wants. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, and I've obviously been on the train of trade Mitch Marner, as we all know in the comment section down below, but I'm still on that kind of fence of trading Mitch Marner. I think that, he's a great player and all of these things, but I don't think at this point anything. Now, again, I could be proven wrong, especially with the Craig Berube stuff. They have a new coach, and you can see this here. Obviously, those questions cool when new Toronto head coach Craig Berube said he was excited to coach the forward. He also hosted the annual Marner All-Star Invitational in early July. The 2-day event, which of course helps raise money for his foundation, had media attendance each year. And again, no hockey questions were permitted. So it seems like over the past month or so, we haven't really had a video covering Marner in a while. Everything is leaning towards him staying in Toronto. And he also had a quote, which you can read here. I'm not going to get into that too much today. I'm just going to say that I love being here. I've said that from day one. I'm very fortunate and lucky to be a Maple Leaf. Today is about these two amazing people, which of course is fine. And I'll get into another quote in a second. But Darius, are you on the fence at this point of keeping Mitch Marner for the season? Do you think that's kind of where you've landed? I still want to trade him. At this point, though, I don't think it makes a whole lot of sense for either side. I mean, he has a no move clause, so I want Brad Treliving to explore it. I think he's explored his options, and ultimately, the options weren't good enough for them to trade. Or Mitch Marner vetoed some of the trades. It's been pretty quiet on that front, so I question how much Brad Treliving actually shopped him.
Yeah, I wonder if he did at all this offseason because with their current salary cap structure, I would say that you probably should move off this player and they probably should have last offseason. But because of where we are now, I think they're going to try to extend them. I honestly think they are. It just depends for Mitch Marner if he wants to sign for less because I feel like other teams are going to give him more. And the Leafs salary cap structure will change a bit. So maybe they do give him a bit of a raise. I'm not saying that's the way you should go or what should happen, right? Personally, I don't think that, this player hasn't been a playoff performer for this team the entire time he's been here, right? You can think of maybe one or two moments, at least myself personally, of Mitch Marner moments in the playoffs. And I can think of a ton for John Tavares, Austin Matthews, and William Nylander, just to name a few. Morgan Riley, right? Those guys, I can think of a ton. So he hasn't really performed at the highest level in the playoffs, but he's still a skillful player. I don't think you're going to get in a trade, equal return. You're probably going to lose that trade. So that's a bad thing. I wonder if he walks in free agency, right? There's still a lot on the table. There's so many scenarios here this season. So I wonder if the, contract negotiations are going to be a distraction this year because there's going to be a lot of moving pieces because there are so many scenarios still on the table. But I think being traded, maybe we rule that one out, at least for this year, because I think he's going to play out his contract because, at the end of the day, he has a no movement clause and he can exercise that, right? If the Leafs wanted to move off of him, they could have last offseason and they didn't. So that is on the Leafs organization. It's not necessarily on the player.
Yeah, and they're also starting to get a bit late now into the offseason to move the player. And again, we look back to some of the other things. The leaked coffee shop photo that we covered a couple months ago, that one was pretty funny to get out. Coffee shop, and there was only a couple of people in there, and one of those people happened to get a picture of it. So I think at this point, and we thought at the time earlier on in the offseason that a trade was going to happen pretty quickly after the loss to the Bruins in Game 7, but ultimately it didn't happen. And I think at this point, they're going to keep him. That being said, like you mentioned, he's not a playoff performer, never has been. And I am still very worried that he's going to be a great regular season performer. He even might hit 100 points this year. He might have one of his best regular seasons of his career, which will still, but I'm worried it's still going to lead to the same result in the playoffs, even though we have a new coach. But again, I'll let us know in the comments what your thoughts are on that, because I know some people are on the train of, hey, Mitch Marner is one of the best players in the NHL. He is one of the better regular season players, but the playoffs is what scares me. And he did also this to say regarding just the team and his outlook on it going forward in the next season. He said, we're just excited. It's a lot of the same group that we've had. We know we're a great team. It's just about making sure every single summer you put the work in, get ready to go, and get geared up for the new season. Talking with Craig throughout the summer, he's been amazing. He's bringing a great new mindset to the team. Marner explained, I talked to a lot of people that have been under his coaching and have only heard great things. We're very excited to have him and fortunate. So that does not sound like the quotes from a guy who's ready to even remotely waive his no-move clause. I think he's going to play it out like his agent said, and the agent used the leverage situation throughout the whole offseason, which was very unfortunate in the sense of if you're Brad Treliving trying to get value out of the guy. But I don't know. It's any thoughts on those comments? Looks good. I'm excited to see Craig Berube coach Mitch Marner, even if I'm on the fence of Mitch Marner probably shouldn't be a Maple Leaf coming into this year. Not that I think he's a great player. I do think he is, but I'm just not on that. I'm not on that fence anymore.
He's a great player. I agree with you on that front. And I do think that Craig Berube is going to bring a different mindset to the team. I don't know what else Mitch Marner was supposed to say in this scenario at this press conference, right? He said all the right things and everything you want to hear, but things have to change, right? Nothing's going to change if things don't change. So it's going to have to happen this season and pretty quickly. So I'm excited to see what Craig Berube does with him specifically. And if I'm going to make a prediction or suspect that a couple things happen here, I think Marner's going to have a great season because players usually do in their contract year when their contract's expiring. So I would suspect that he hits 100 points, if not more. Right. And I think that they're going to try to extend him. I think the Leafs are honestly going to try and extend him. I just wonder what the number looks like. And if that player, Mitch Marner, that is, will accept it, because I think there's a lot of teams, if he goes to free agency, that are willing to back up the Brinks truck for this player. So it's going to be really interesting to see what comes out during the season this year.
Yeah. Let us know in the comments down below what your thoughts are on this and your current stance on Mitch Marner. Thank you to Fume for sponsoring this video. Check out the link in the pinned comment and the description below.